My wife and I went to go see the Best Christmas Pageant Ever, the movie that came out recently, the children's movie. And I was particularly excited to see the film because I was familiar with the short story that was published. I remember reading the book as a kid, reading it in school. It's a classic children's text. I believe it was originally published in 1972. It tells the story of a Christmas pageant in a small town that becomes taken over by a group of juvenile delinquents, troublemaker kids, and in the process, the town learns something about the true meaning of Christmas, Christian love, acceptance, that kind of thing. Set in the past, in the 1960s, and it is very much a story of small town gossip and rumor, children bullying each other, the judgment that is poured down on people, and how all of this plays out and culminates in a very interesting Christmas pageant in a small town. The short story itself was already a very, very religious story centered around the Christian story of Christmas and the birth of Jesus Christ. However, what I noticed about the film was that they amped up the religious aspects even more than the original short story did. They really seemed to emphasize not only the religious aspects and Christian acceptance, but also the notion of a community and how important it is to be in a community, how the needs of these juvenile delinquent children could be fulfilled by joining the local church, how the local church could be an accepting place and how it should learn to be accepting of them. Now, this comes as Netflix is obsessed with the notion of a cult, authoritarianism, dictators, illiberalism, and we're constantly being inoculated against any notion of an illiberal movement, a movement that pushes collectivism, could push to reinvent U.S. society beyond the irrationality of the market and the irrationality of the liberal order. It's certainly no secret that our society is becoming less religious than before. Church attendance is dramatically low across America, especially since the pandemic. Americans are just not involved in religious communities as they once were. And yet, it seems that at this point, Hollywood is churning out a number of films that are not simply aimed at Christian viewers, but almost kind of advertisements saying, get involved in a religious community. Unlike the book version of The Best Christmas Pageant Ever, in the film version, the children, the juvenile delinquents, end up joining the church, and it emphasizes that they needed a community. This reminded me of the film Jesus Revolution that came out a few years ago that seemed to have a similar vibe to it. It was not simply telling a story, and it was not simply entertaining people that were already primed to appreciate the message. It was almost a go-to-church advertisement, get involved in a religious community advertisement. Now, my feeling about what's going on here is this. I think across America, there are a number of people that are very dissatisfied with their conditions, also very upset and unhappy about the economy and the state of affairs, and also feeling very isolated from other people. They want to be part of an organization, and that there is a fear on the part of big sections of the U.S. foreign policy establishment that they might join some kind of illiberal movement. We saw what happened with January 6th and QAnon. We see how negatively they're reacting to the re-election of Donald Trump. And I feel like these films that all have a kind of join a religious community, join a mainstream church message to them, these films are more or less saying this is a safe outlet for your anti-establishment sentiments. If you're feeling alienated from society, if you're feeling angry at the government, if you're looking for a community to belong to, the safe thing to do is to join a mainstream church, a mainstream religious community. Ultimately, what millions of Americans, especially those living in small Rust Belt towns who are angry with the political establishment and seeing their living conditions go down, need is a mass movement of anti-imperialists. They need to join the Center for Political Innovation. They need to join the movement we are creating to mobilize Americans to reinvent the country as part of the emerging economic order that is in opposition to the decaying Atlanticist, imperialist economic system. We need a new America with a government of action that fights for working families. And I don't think liberal churches are going to fulfill the deep frustration, needs, and desires of so many Americans. But that seems to be what the establishment is currently trying to do. And a wave of films that are pointing Americans toward the liberal churches, the mainstream churches that they have largely turned away from in recent years, seem to be coming out from Hollywood. This enjoyable children's film was yet the latest example.